Welcome to Pure Love Stories. If you're new here, we're glad you found us. Like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from if you enjoy heartfelt romance. This is the story of the assassin who fell for the woman he was meant to destroy. Chapter 1: The Contract. The coffee shop on Fifth Avenue smelled like burnt espresso and rain-soaked wool. Marcus Webb sat in the back corner, away from the windows, watching the entrance through the reflection in his phone screen. Old habits. The kind that kept you breathing in a profession where most people didn't make it past 35. He was 38. The client was late. That alone told him something, either amateur hour, which meant trouble, or deliberate power play, which meant the same thing with better funding. Marcus took another sip of black coffee and waited. Patience was the difference between operators who retired and operators who ended up in shallow graves with no names on the headstone. 3:47 p.m. A man in a charcoal suit entered. Mid-50s, expensive watch, the kind of haircut that cost more than most people's car payments. He scanned the shop with the jerky movements of someone who'd read about tradecraft in a magazine but never actually lived it. Marcus didn't move, didn't signal. The man would find him or he wouldn't. Test number 1. It took the suit almost 30 seconds, which was pathetic. But eventually he made his way to Marcus's table and sat down without asking. He placed a leather portfolio between them like it was radioactive. "You're Webb," the man said. Statement, not question. "And you're the person who wired $50,000 into an account in the Caymans yesterday," Marcus replied, voice flat. "Which means you want something that costs a lot more than $50,000. The man's jaw tightened. "I was told you were discreet." "I'm expensive." "Discreet comes with the package." Marcus leaned back, studying him. "You have the look of someone who works in an office with a view and doesn't normally handle his own problems. So either this is personal or someone very important sent you because they can't risk their own exposure." "The latter." The man opened the portfolio, sliding a photograph across the table. Natalie Brennan, 29. Lives alone in a brownstone on the Upper West Side. Security is private, rotating shifts, competent but not military grade. Marcus looked at the photo without touching it. Dark hair, intelligent eyes, caught mid-laugh at what looked like a charity function. She wore a blue dress and held a champagne glass like she was born to it. "Senator Brennan's daughter," Marcus said. "You know the family?" "I know everyone who matters in this city. It's my job." Marcus's eyes flicked back to the man. "What's the objective?" "Extraction. Clean. No witnesses, no trail. We need information she has access to. Classified archives her mother left her. Biometric keys, authentication codes, location of physical drives. Once you have it, she becomes a liability." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus had heard variations of this speech 100 times. The careful language, the clinical detachment. Becomes a liability meant a bullet and a furnace. "Timeline?" Marcus asked. 72 hours. The senator is scheduled to appear before a closed intelligence committee next week. "We need the information before then." "Payment structure?" "The 50 you received is the retainer. Another 100 on extraction. 200 more once the objective is complete." The man paused. "And the final loose end is tied up. $350,000. Expensive for an abduction, but standard for what they were really buying." Marcus's willingness not to ask questions and his ability to disappear afterward. He should have walked away. Something about the job felt wrong, like static on a radio frequency. But 350,000 bought a lot of distance, and distance was the only thing Marcus wanted anymore. Distance from this city, this country, this version of himself that he'd become after the army had chewed him up and spit him out with a dishonorable discharge and a scarlet letter he'd never escape. "I'll need 48 hours for surveillance," Marcus said. "Movement patterns, security rotations, entry points. If you're in a rush, hire someone sloppier. 48 hours. Then we expect results." The man stood, leaving the portfolio. He was halfway to the door when Marcus spoke again. "One more thing. I work alone. If I see anyone following me, anyone running parallel surveillance, anyone even looking at this job sideways, the deal is off and you lose your $50,000. Are we clear? The man turned back, and for just a moment, something flickered across his face. Not fear. Calculation. Crystal clear, he said, and left. Marcus sat for another 10 minutes, watching the street through the window. No one followed the suit. No one lingered outside. But that static feeling didn't go away. He picked up the portfolio and walked out into the rain. 47 hours later, Marcus knew Natalie Brennan's life better than she probably knew it herself. She woke at 6:15 a.m. every morning. Ran 4 miles through Central Park regardless of weather. Stopped at the same coffee cart. Not a shop, a cart, which was either charmingly unpretentious or dangerously predictable depending on your perspective. She worked from home 3 days a week, attended her father's office the other 2. Wednesday night was dinner with friends in Soho. Thursday night was yoga. Friday was dinner with the senator himself, always at the same restaurant, always the same table. She didn't date, or if she did, she was careful about it. No overnight guests. No pattern of restaurants or shows with the same companion. The security was exactly as advertised. Private contractor, 2-man teams, 8-hour shifts. They stayed outside, never entered the brownstone. Professional but lazy. They'd gotten comfortable because nothing ever happened to senators' daughters in the Upper West Side. Marcus chose Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m. The overnight shift had just started, which meant maximum fatigue curve still 3 hours out. Natalie's lights had been off since 10:30, her phone inactive since 10:45. He approached from the service alley behind the brownstone. The building was old, which meant the locks were decorative and the alarm system was retrofitted and therefore imperfect. He bypassed the back entrance in 90 seconds, moving through the darkened kitchen with the kind of silence that came from muscle memory and too many missions in places where noise meant death. The brownstone's layout matched the architectural plans he'd pulled from the city database. First floor, kitchen, living room, study. Second floor, master bedroom, guest room, bathroom. Third floor, converted loft space she used as a home office. She'd be in the master bedroom. Marcus moved up the stairs, testing each step for creaks, breathing controlled and even. At the top of the landing, he paused. Her door was open 6 inches. Light sleeper's habit, keeping the hallway visible, maintaining an exit route. It meant she was smarter than most civilians. He pushed the door open slowly. She was exactly where he'd expected her to be. Lying on her side in the bed, dark hair spilled across the pillow, breathing deep and regular. The room smelled like lavender and old books. A reading lamp sat on the nightstand, currently off. Her phone was charging on the opposite table. Marcus crossed the room in 4 steps and clamped his hand over her mouth. Her eyes snapped open, wide, terrified, and she tried to scream against his palm. He'd expected that. What he hadn't expected was how fast she moved. Her knee came up hard, aiming for his groin, and her hand clawed toward the nightstand. Not freezing. Fighting. "Don't," Marcus said quietly, his other hand catching her wrist. "I'm not here to hurt you, but if you scream, if you fight, this gets harder for both of us. Nod if you understand." She stared at him, chest heaving, eyes searching his face in the darkness. Then slowly she nodded. He eased the pressure on her mouth. "I'm going to move my hand. You're going to stay quiet. We're going to have a conversation. If you cooperate, you'll be back here by morning. If you don't..." He let the sentence hang. When he removed his hand, she didn't scream. She just kept staring at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who was paid to ask you some questions." "About what?" "Your mother's work. Classified archives. Access codes she left you." Confusion flickered across her face. Real confusion, not performed. "I don't know what you're talking about." "That's what they all say." "No, I mean..." She stopped, seeming to choose her words carefully. "My mother died 3 years ago. She was NSA, yes, but I never had security clearance. I don't have access to anything classified. There's nothing to inherit except photo albums and her wedding ring." Marcus studied her. He'd interrogated enough people to know the difference between lying and truth. She believed what she was saying, which meant the client had fed him bad intelligence. "Get dressed," he said, stepping back. "Jeans, comfortable shoes, a jacket. Nothing flashy. You're coming with me." "Where?" "Somewhere we can talk without your security detail getting involved." She didn't move. "If I scream right now, they'll be inside in 30 seconds. And I'll be gone in 20, Marcus said. "But your door will have been forced. Your alarm will be screaming. And by tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the city will know someone got past your father's security. Is that what you want?" Her jaw set. "You're threatening my father?" "I'm stating facts. Get dressed, Miss Brennan. We can do this quietly, or we can make it loud. Your choice." For a long moment, she just looked at him. Then she stood, moving to her closet with careful, controlled movements. She pulled on jeans, a sweater, boots. The whole time, her hands didn't shake. Definitely smarter than most civilians. "Phone stays here," Marcus said when she reached for it. She set it back down. "Can I ask you something?" "No. If you're not here to hurt me, why am I more valuable somewhere else?" It was a good question. The kind of question that meant she was already thinking 3 moves ahead. "Because," Marcus said, "I need to know what you know. And I need to know why someone paid me a lot of money to find out." He zip-tied her wrists in front of her, loose enough not to cut circulation, tight enough to make a point, and led her down the back stairs. The security team never even turned their heads. The safe house was in Red Hook, Brooklyn. An industrial building that had been converted into live-work lofts 15 years ago and now sat mostly abandoned, waiting for the next wave of gentrification that hadn't quite arrived yet. Marcus had 3 of them scattered across the boroughs. Different names, different shell companies, always paid up 6 months in advance. He sat Natalie in a chair in the empty main room and cut the zip ties. Then he pulled up a stool across from her and waited. She rubbed her wrists, looking around. Concrete floors, exposed pipes, windows covered with blackout curtains. "Cozy," she said. "It serves a purpose. Which is keeping you alive while I figure out what's actually going on." Her eyes snapped back to him. "What does that mean?" Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It means the people who hired me told me you had access to classified intelligence. Archives your mother left you, biometric authentication, physical storage locations, codes. They were very specific." "I already told you. I know what you told me, and I believe you." He watched her process that. "Which means either they were misinformed or they lied to me. And in my experience, clients who lie about the objective usually lie about everything else too." Natalie's expression shifted from fear to calculation. "What exactly did they hire you to do?" "Extract information. Then eliminate the source." "Eliminate." The word came out flat. "You mean kill me?" That was the implication, yes? She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Marcus didn't stop her. Where was she going to go? He watched her think, watched her hands curl into fists and release, watched her breathing regulate. When she turned back, her face was composed. "So what happens now?" "Now," Marcus said. "You tell me everything you know about your mother's work, everything she told you, everything she left you, every conversation you remember. Because someone thinks you have something valuable, and I need to know what it is before." The window exploded. Marcus moved on instinct, throwing himself sideways as bullets punched through the blackout curtains. Natalie screamed and dropped. He rolled, coming up with his Glock drawn, firing 3 rounds through the window at the muzzle flash across the street. "Down!" he shouted. "Stay down." She was already flat on the concrete, hands over her head. More gunfire tore through the room. 2 shooters, maybe 3, suppressed weapons, professional spacing. Not a retrieval team. A cleanup crew. They were supposed to be dead already. Marcus grabbed Natalie's arm and hauled her toward the back hallway. "Move! Now!" They ran, hunched over, as bullets chewed up the walls behind them. Marcus kicked open the fire door and shoved her through, following and slamming it shut. The stairwell was concrete and steel. It would buy them maybe 30 seconds. "Who are they?" Natalie gasped, running beside him. The same people who hired me. Why are they shooting at us? Because I was supposed to kill you 3 hours ago. Since I didn't, they're cleaning up loose ends. They hit the ground floor. Marcus checked the alley exit clear and pushed outside. His car was 2 blocks away. They'd never make it on foot. He grabbed Natalie's hand and pulled her left, toward the water, toward the shipping containers and warehouse shadows where vehicles couldn't follow easily. Behind them, the fire door crashed open. Marcus fired twice without looking back, heard someone curse and stumble. Good. He didn't want to kill them if he didn't have to. He just wanted distance. They ran through the industrial maze, Natalie keeping pace better than he'd expected. Not asking questions, saving her breath for survival. Smart. When they reached the waterfront, Marcus pulled her behind a rusted shipping container and finally let himself breathe. He checked his phone. No signal. They'd probably jammed the area. Natalie was leaning against the container, chest heaving, eyes wide but focused. You said you were expensive, she said between breaths. I'm guessing your clients don't usually try to kill you. First time for everything. What does that mean for us? Marcus met her eyes. It means they don't just want you dead anymore. They want us both dead. Which means whatever you know, or whatever they think you know, is worth killing a professional operative to bury. I don't know anything, she insisted. Then we need to figure out what they think you know. Marcus checked his watch. And we need to do it before they figure out we're not in that building anymore. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. Good. It would complicate the cleanup crew's operation, buy them time. Come on, Marcus said, standing. We need to move. Where? Somewhere they won't look. He started walking, and after a moment, she followed. Behind them, Brooklyn burned with distant red and blue lights, and Marcus realized with cold certainty that this job had just become something he'd spent 6 years trying to avoid. Complicated. Chapter 2. The second safe house was in Queens, buried in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions and everybody minded their business. Marcus had learned a long time ago that the best places to disappear weren't the abandoned warehouses or the waterfront properties. They were the ordinary homes on ordinary streets where one more stranger was just background noise. This one was a 2-bedroom apartment above a bodega, accessed through a separate entrance in the alley. The landlord thought Marcus was a traveling consultant. Paid in cash 6 months at a time. Never caused problems. Marcus unlocked the door and ushered Natalie inside. She entered slowly, taking in the space. Sparse furniture. No personal items. A kitchen that looked unused except for the coffee maker. It had the same feel as the Red Hook loft. Functional, temporary, soulless. You live like this? She asked, turning to face him. I live like I might need to leave in under 2 minutes. Marcus locked the door, engaged the deadbolt, checked the window sight lines. Which, given the last hour, seems pretty justified. Natalie sank onto the couch, and for the first time since he'd grabbed her, she let the composure crack. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them together in her lap. Marcus went to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of water. He set one in front of her and took the other to the window, maintaining his position where he could watch the street. Thank you, she said quietly. For the water or for not killing you? Both, I guess. She took a sip, then looked at him. You saved my life back there. I saved my own life. You were just adjacent. Was that true? What you said about them wanting us both dead? Marcus nodded. You heard the gunfire. They weren't shooting to wound. Natalie set the glass down. So what now? We can't go to the police. If these people are connected to classified intelligence, they'll have reach. They have reach, Marcus confirmed. The kind of money they're throwing around, they've got law enforcement coverage, probably federal. We go to the cops, we're dead within 48 hours. Maybe sooner. Then what do? We figure out what you're worth. Marcus turned from the window. Your mother worked for NSA. What division? She never said. Most of what she did was classified. When did she die? 3 years ago. Car accident on the Beltway during a rainstorm. Natalie's voice caught slightly. Single car collision. They said she lost control. You don't believe that? It wasn't a question. Marcus could hear the doubt in her voice. I don't know what I believe, Natalie said. The investigation ruled it accidental. But my mother was the most careful driver I've ever known. She used to say situational awareness kept her alive in Yemen and Iraq and Pakistan. It would keep her alive in DC traffic too. Did anything unusual happen before she died? Strange phone calls, people following her, changes in her behavior. Natalie thought for a moment. She was working on something. The last few months she was stressed. Not scared exactly, but focused, distracted. She'd come to dinner and not hear half the conversation. My father thought she was angling for a promotion. Did she leave anything behind? Files? Letters? Storage devices? Just personal effects. Her attorney handled the estate. Everything went through probate normally. Nothing unusual in her will? No safe deposit boxes. No instructions about sealed envelopes. No. It was straightforward. Her savings and retirement accounts went to my father and me. Her jewelry came to me. That's it. Marcus paced the small living room, thinking. They said biometric access. That means something tied to you personally, fingerprints, retinal scan, DNA, maybe even voice recognition. Did your mother ever take you to her office? Once. When I was 16. She had to pick up some paperwork and she brought me along. But I didn't see anything classified. We were in and out in 10 minutes. Did she have you do anything? Touch anything? Sign anything? Look at anything? Natalie started to shake her head, then stopped. She had me put my thumb on a scanner. Said it was for the visitor log. Marcus felt something click into place. NSA doesn't use thumbprints for visitor logs. They use ID badges and sign-in sheets. What are you saying? I'm saying your mother might have registered your biometrics in a system without telling you why. If she was working on something sensitive, something dangerous, she might have created a failsafe. Information that could only be accessed by someone she trusted completely. Me, Natalie whispered. You. Marcus crossed his arms. The question is, what information? And why are people willing to kill for it? Before Natalie could answer, Marcus's phone buzzed. A single text from an unlisted number. Brooklyn was messy. Let's talk professionally. He showed Natalie the screen. That's them. What are you going to do? Marcus typed back, you shot first. Professional conversation seems unlikely. The response came 30 seconds later. Misunderstanding. The team wasn't authorized. We still need the asset intact. They're lying, Natalie said, reading over his shoulder. Of course they're lying. Marcus deleted the messages. But they're also telling me something important. What? They're desperate. If they'd accomplished what they wanted in Brooklyn, they wouldn't be texting me. They'd be cleaning up bodies. He pocketed the phone. Which means we have leverage. Not much, but some. Natalie stood, walking to the window. She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the street below. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Harder. My father, she said. This is about him, isn't it? Marcus had been thinking the same thing. Tell me about his committee work. He's on intelligence and armed services. He's pushed for oversight reforms, transparency in black budget programs, limits on domestic surveillance. He's made enemies. The kind who'd kill his daughter to send a message? The kind who'd kill anyone who threatened their funding streams. Natalie turned back. But if this was just about hurting my father, they would have just grabbed me and made demands. Why the story about my mother's files? Why make it so complicated? Because it's not just about hurting him, Marcus said slowly, pieces assembling in his mind. It's about destroying him. If you're the key to classified information, information that could implicate programs or operations, then having you access it and leak it would ruin him politically. Make it look like the senator's own daughter exposed state secrets. Natalie's face went pale. A setup. A very expensive, very thorough setup. Marcus checked his watch. They probably have the whole narrative ready. Senator's daughter, grieving her mother, accesses classified files she shouldn't have, leaks them to the press or a foreign power. The senator either knew and covered for her, or was negligent enough not to notice. Either way, his career is over. Maybe his freedom too. And then they kill me and make it look like suicide. The guilty daughter who couldn't live with what she'd done. Natalie's voice was shaking again, but this time with anger, not fear. How long have you been doing this? Killing people for money? The question landed like a punch. Marcus met her eyes. 6 years, he said. Since the army decided my conscience was less valuable than their operational convenience. What does that mean? Marcus hesitated. He'd never told anyone the full story. Not because he was ashamed, he'd done the right thing and he knew it, but because the truth didn't matter. It never had. The lie had been written into official records, and the lie was what the world believed. But Natalie was looking at him like she actually wanted to know. Not judging yet, just listening. I was a captain, he said finally. Special operations. Afghanistan, mostly. We got intelligence on a target, a compound allegedly housing Taliban leadership. Orders were to level it. No capture, no confirmation. Just airstrike and move on. What happened? I did reconnaissance first. Always did, no matter what the orders said. And I found families. Women, children, old men. The intelligence was wrong or it was never right to begin with. So I refused the order. Natalie waited. They court-martialed me, Marcus continued. Charged me with insubordination, conduct unbecoming, failure to follow lawful orders. The truth about the families was classified. My defense wasn't allowed to present it. The government got their scapegoat, and I got a dishonorable discharge and a permanent black mark that follows me everywhere. You saved those people, Natalie said. I saved those people, Marcus agreed. And it cost me everything. My career, my reputation, my future. So yeah, I've spent the last 6 years doing jobs for money, working for whoever pays the most, because I learned that honor and truth are commodities that nobody actually values. They just talk like they do. The silence stretched between them. I'm sorry, Natalie said finally. Don't be. I made my choice. I'm not sorry you saved them. I'm sorry the world punished you for it. She crossed her arms. But that doesn't mean you have to stay broken. I'm not broken. I'm realistic. No, Natalie said quietly. You're hiding. You've built a life where nothing matters so you can't be hurt again. But that's not living. That's just surviving. Marcus turned back to the window. Surviving is what I'm good at. So was my mother. Right up until someone decided she knew too much. The words hung in the air. Outside, traffic moved past. The bodega's neon sign flickered. Get some sleep, Marcus said. The bedroom's through there. I'll take the couch. What are you going to do? Watch. Plan. Make sure we're still breathing in the morning. Natalie didn't move. You're not going to disappear, are you? While I'm asleep. The question surprised him. Why would I? Because that's what surviving looks like for you. Cut the liability. Move on. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. She was terrified, he could see that. But she was still standing straight, still thinking, still fighting. She reminded him of the man he used to be, before the army had taught him that the system always won. I'm not leaving, he said. Promise. You don't trust promises from someone like me. Someone like you just saved my life twice in the same night, Natalie said. So yeah. I'm asking for a promise. Marcus held her gaze. I won't leave. Not until this is finished. She nodded slowly, then walked toward the bedroom. At the door, she paused. Marcus. He turned. Thank you, she said. For not being who they paid you to be. Then she closed the door, and Marcus was alone with the ghosts he'd spent 6 years trying to outrun. The attack came at 4:17 a.m. Marcus was awake. He was always awake during high-threat operations. Sitting in the dark living room with his Glock in his lap and his eyes on the street. He saw the panel van pull up 3 buildings down. Saw the way it parked just slightly off angle. saw the driver stay inside while three figures in dark clothes got out and moved with the practiced efficiency of trained operators. He was already moving before the first one reached the alley. Marcus crossed to the bedroom and opened the door. Natalie was asleep on top of the covers, still fully dressed. Smart. He touched her shoulder and she woke instantly, eyes wide. "They're here," he said quietly. "We have maybe 90 seconds. She didn't ask questions. Just stood and grabbed her jacket. Marcus led her to the kitchen. There was a window above the sink that opened onto a fire escape. Not the main one that would be covered. This was the building's old service ladder. Barely maintained, probably not even in the building plans anymore. "Out," he said. "Down to the alley, then west toward the subway station. Don't stop, don't look back. If I'm not behind you in 3 minutes, keep going." "I'm not leaving you. Natalie. You didn't leave me." "I'm not leaving you." Marcus didn't have time to argue. He heard footsteps on the stairs outside. Heavy boots. Multiple sets. "Fine. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say." They went through the window. The fire escape groaned under their weight but held. Below, the alley was dark. Marcus went down first, testing each rung, keeping his body between Natalie and any potential sightlines. They were 10 feet from the ground when the apartment window exploded. Not gunfire this time. Flashbang. The concussive blast rolled over them, disorienting but not debilitating because they were outside the kill zone. Marcus dropped the last few feet and caught Natalie as she jumped. "Run!" They sprinted down the alley. Behind them, voices shouted. Tactical commands. At least 4 operators, probably 6. Marcus hit the street and pulled Natalie left, toward the busier avenue where witnesses and cameras would complicate the operation. A bullet sparked off the pavement 3 feet away. Suppressed, but not silent. Someone screamed. They ran harder. The subway entrance was half a block ahead. Marcus could see the stairs, see people coming and going despite the early hour. If they could reach the platform, the crowd, they might. A car screeched around the corner. Black SUV, tinted windows, coming fast. Marcus yanked Natalie sideways into a bodega entrance. The SUV skidded to a stop, blocking their path. 2 more operators jumped out, raising weapons. No choice. Marcus fired 3 rounds, 1 into each front tire, 1 through the driver's side window. The SUV lurched as the tires exploded. The operators dove for cover. "Move!" Marcus shoved Natalie toward a cross street. They ran between buildings, through a narrow pedestrian walkway, emerging onto a side street Marcus recognized. Footsteps echoed behind them. Close. Too close. He pulled Natalie into a recessed doorway and pressed against her, using his body to shield her from the street. She was breathing hard, pressed against his chest, and he could feel her heart hammering against his own. The footsteps passed. 2 operators, moving fast, focused on the main street. Marcus waited 30 seconds. Natalie's eyes were locked on his, her face inches away. He could feel the warmth of her breath, see the pulse jumping in her throat. The adrenaline, the fear, the closeness. It all created a current between them that neither could ignore. Then he carefully looked out. Clear. "Come on," he whispered. They moved in the opposite direction, staying in the shadows, avoiding the main avenues. Marcus's mind was working through options, calculating routes, discarding anything too obvious. They needed wheels. They needed distance. They needed. Natalie's hand tightened on his arm. "There," she breathed. Marcus followed her gaze. A car service vehicle, driver dozing behind the wheel, engine running. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't subtle. But it was there. Marcus approached the driver's window and tapped on the glass. The driver woke with a start, saw the gun, and his hands went up immediately. "Out," Marcus said. Slowly. "Keys on the seat." The driver complied, stumbling away into the early morning. Marcus slid into the driver's seat and Natalie got in beside him. They were 3 blocks away before anyone started shouting. Marcus drove for 40 minutes, taking random turns, checking mirrors constantly, until he was certain they weren't being followed. Finally, he pulled into a 24-hour parking garage in Manhattan and killed the engine. Natalie was staring straight ahead, hands clenched in her lap. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "Define okay." Her voice was tight. "I've been kidnapped, shot at twice, and I'm now apparently a fugitive in a stolen car. So sure. I'm fantastic. Could be worse." She turned to look at him. "How? You could be dead. Is that your version of optimism?" Marcus almost smiled. "I don't do optimism. Just accurate threat assessment." Natalie leaned her head back against the seat. "They're not going to stop, are they?" "No." "How many people are after us?" "Hard to say. The initial crew was probably 4 to 6 contractors. But whoever's running this operation has deep pockets and deeper connections. They can keep sending people until we're dead or they run out of resources. And people like this don't run out of resources. So what's the play?" Marcus considered. They couldn't keep running indefinitely. Eventually, their luck would fail or they'd make a mistake or the net would close too tight. They needed to shift from defense to offense. "We need to know what your mother left you," he said. "If we can find it first, we have leverage. Evidence of what they're trying to bury." "How?" "You said we can't go to the police." "We can't. But we can go to someone who knows how to navigate classified systems." Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. "I know a guy. Used to be NSA himself before he got pushed out for asking too many questions. He runs a security consulting firm now. If anyone can trace your mother's digital footprint, it's him. Can you trust him?" "I can trust him to work for the right price. And right now, that's the best we've got." Marcus sent a text. "Need a meeting. Urgent. Name your location." The response came back 90 seconds later. "Who is this?" "Webb. From Kabul." Longer pause this time. Then Tompkins Square Park. 1 hour. Come alone. Marcus showed Natalie the screen. "He'll meet us." "You told him to come alone." "He knows I'll bring someone. It's a test. Seeing if I'll lie about it." "Will you?" "No." Marcus started the engine. "We're running out of time to be clever. From here on out, we tell the truth and hope it's enough." Natalie studied him in the dim light of the parking garage. "You're different than I expected." "How so?" "When you grabbed me, I thought you were just another mercenary. Someone who'd do anything for money." She paused. "But you're not, are you? You still have lines you won't cross." "I crossed plenty of lines to get here. But not all of them," Natalie said quietly. "You could have left me in Brooklyn. You could have disappeared in Queens. But you didn't." Marcus didn't answer, because she was right and that was the problem. Somewhere in the last 12 hours, Natalie Brennan had stopped being a contract and started being a person. And people made you care. And caring got you killed. But it was too late to uncross that line now. 1 hour, he said, putting the car in gear. "Let's see if we can stay alive that long." They had 45 minutes to kill before the meeting. Marcus found a 24-hour diner 2 blocks from the park and ordered coffee for both of them. Natalie wrapped her hands around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "Tell me something," she said after a long silence. Marcus looked up. "About what?" "About you. Something real. Not the soldier, not the assassin. Just you. There isn't much else." "I don't believe that." Natalie leaned forward slightly. "Before the army, before all of this. Who were you?" Marcus considered deflecting. He'd spent 6 years perfecting the art of keeping people at arm's length. But something about the way Natalie was looking at him, genuinely curious, genuinely wanting to know, made him answer honestly. "I was a kid from Ohio who believed in truth and justice and all the things they tell you America stands for," he said. "I joined up at 18 because I wanted to serve something bigger than myself. Wanted to protect people who couldn't protect themselves." He took a sip of coffee. "Turns out the world doesn't work the way they tell you in recruiting videos." "When did you figure that out?" "Slowly. Little things at first. Orders that didn't quite make sense. Intelligence that seemed too convenient. Missions where the objective kept changing." Marcus's jaw tightened. But I kept believing that most people in the system were good. That the occasional bad actor was an exception, not the rule. And then I found those families in that compound. Children playing in the courtyard. Women hanging laundry. Old men drinking tea. His voice went quiet. And I realized the strike order wasn't a mistake. It was expedient. Someone wanted that building gone. And they didn't care who was inside. The intelligence was just cover. Natalie reached across the table and took his hand. The gesture surprised him. Her fingers were warm, her grip firm. "I'm glad you didn't follow that order," she said. "Yeah, well, it cost me everything." "It cost you a career built on lies," Natalie corrected. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing to lose." Marcus looked down at their joined hands. When was the last time someone had touched him like this? Not sexually, not transactionally, but with simple human connection. He couldn't remember. "You should be more afraid of me," he said. "Why?" "Because I'm exactly what they made me. A weapon. Someone who knows 100 ways to kill and not many ways to do anything else." "I don't think that's true." Natalie's thumb traced small circles on the back of his hand. "I think you're someone who got hurt and built armor so thick you forgot there was still a person underneath." Marcus met her eyes. "And what makes you think there is?" "Because you're still here. Because you could have walked away a dozen times and you didn't. Because when you look at me, I don't see a weapon. I see someone who's tired of being alone." The words hit harder than they should have. Marcus pulled his hand back, but gently. "We should go," he said. "Don't want to keep David waiting." Natalie nodded, but there was understanding in her eyes. She'd seen through him and they both knew it. They left money on the table and walked out into the pre-dawn darkness. Tompkins Square Park was quiet. Dog walkers, a few homeless men sleeping on benches, early morning runners tracing the paths. Marcus and Natalie sat on a bench near the center, visible but not isolated. Marcus had chosen the position carefully. Sight lines in all directions, multiple exit routes, enough civilians to complicate any hostile action. At 6:47 a.m., a man in a dark jacket and jeans approached. Late 40s, gray at the temples, the kind of face that looked tired in a permanent way. He carried a coffee cup in each hand. "Webb," the man said, sitting down beside Marcus and offering him one of the coffees. "It's been a while. 3 years. Istanbul, right? The job with the Georgian diplomat." The man's eyes flicked to Natalie. "You bringing civilians to meetings now?" "This is Natalie Brennan." "Natalie, this is David Chin." He used to break codes for the NSA before they decided independent thinking was a liability. David's expression shifted. "Brennan. As in Senator Brennan." "His daughter," Natalie confirmed. "Jesus, Webb. What have you gotten yourself into?" "The kind of trouble that ends with both of us dead unless we figure out what's actually going on." Marcus sipped the coffee. Still hot. David had been watching, waiting, making sure they came alone. Professional habits. "We need access to classified NSA archives. Specifically, anything connected to Elizabeth Brennan." David went very still. "Elizabeth Brennan is dead." "I know. I'm her daughter," Natalie said. "And someone thinks she left me access to information they're willing to kill for." "Who's they?" "That's what we're trying to figure out." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed David the initial contract photo of Natalie. "I was hired to extract her and get classified access codes. Biometric authentication, physical storage locations." The client claimed she had it all. "Do you?" David asked Natalie. "I didn't even know I might until 12 hours ago." David was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then he stood. "Not here. If we're talking about Elizabeth Brennan's work, we need somewhere more secure. Follow me." David's office was in a converted industrial building in Greenpoint. The entire floor had been retrofitted with the kind of security that made Marcus's safe houses look amateur. Biometric locks, RF shielding, physical isolation from the building's main network. Inside, it looked like a hacker's fever dream, servers, monitors, equipment Marcus couldn't even name. "You've upgraded since Istanbul," Marcus said. NSA teaches you a lot about information security. Mostly by showing you how badly they do it themselves. David gestured to chairs. Sit. Talk. Tell me everything. They did. Marcus explained the contract, the initial extraction, the attack in Brooklyn, the running firefight in Queens. Natalie filled in the details about her mother, the car accident, the absence of any obvious classified inheritance. When they finished, David was staring at his computer screen, fingers moving across the keyboard. Elizabeth Brennan, he said slowly. She was one of the good ones. Worked in signals intelligence, later moved to oversight and accountability. She had a reputation for being incorruptible, which in our world means she made a lot of enemies. What was she working on when she died? Natalie asked. David's fingers kept moving. Officially, budget analysis for black programs. Unofficially, he paused, reading something on the screen. There were rumors, nothing confirmed. But people said she'd stumbled onto something in the audit trail. Money moving in directions it shouldn't, programs that didn't exist on paper but were clearly operational. Illegal programs? Marcus asked. Worse, deniable programs. The kind that let politicians and agency heads claim ignorance when things go wrong. David pulled up a series of documents. Look at this. 3 months before Elizabeth died, there was an internal investigation into unauthorized surveillance of American citizens. The program was called Nightfall, theoretically shut down after the inquiry. But the budget allocation never decreased. Natalie leaned forward. You think my mother found proof it was still running? I think your mother found proof of a lot of things. David opened another window. Here. This is her last login to the NSA internal network. 2 days before she died. She accessed the archive system, downloaded approximately 4 gigabytes of classified material, and then immediately logged out. The system flagged it as unusual activity. What did she download? Marcus asked. I can't tell you that. The files themselves are air-gapped, stored on isolated systems that can't be accessed remotely. David looked at Natalie. But I can tell you that the access keys she used were linked to a secondary authentication protocol. One that required biometric verification. Mine, Natalie said quietly. Probably. If she wanted to hide something from the people hunting her, she'd need a failsafe. Someone she trusted completely who could access the information if something happened to her. Marcus felt the pieces clicking together. So she registered Natalie's biometrics in the system, downloaded the files to physical storage, and hid them somewhere. Insurance policy. Smart, David said. Except someone figured it out. And now they need Natalie to access whatever Elizabeth left behind. Why not just force me to access it? Natalie asked. Why the elaborate setup with the political scandal? Because they need plausible deniability, Marcus said. If you're coerced, the information could be dismissed as fabricated or extracted under duress. But if you access it willingly, leak it publicly, it looks legitimate. And once you've served your purpose, they eliminate you and spin the narrative however they want. Your father's reputation destroyed, the evidence buried, and anyone who knows the truth dead, David added. Clean operation. Natalie's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on her thighs. Where would my mother hide physical storage? We went through her entire estate. There was nothing. Did she have a safe deposit box? Marcus asked. We checked. Empty except for some old tax returns and her will. What about her office? Personal effects. Everything was cleared out and returned to us. I have boxes of her stuff in my apartment. Books, awards, photographs. Nothing classified. David was typing again. Wait, here. Elizabeth had a storage unit registered under a shell company. Not in her name, buried under 3 layers of corporate ownership. But the payment structure traces back to her accounts. He pulled up an address. Queens. Industrial Storage Facility. Marcus memorized the address. Can you tell if anyone else knows about it? If they do, they haven't accessed the ownership records. But that doesn't mean much. There are other ways to find things. How long would it take them to figure out what we just did? Natalie asked. David shrugged. Depends on their resources. If they have NSA-level access, maybe a few hours. If they're working from the outside, could be days. But given that they hired Webb here to do the dirty work, I'm guessing they don't have direct access to the internal systems. So we have a window, Marcus said. A small one. And it's closing. David stood. I can give you tools. Bypasses for electronic locks, portable scanner if the storage requires biometric access. But after that, you're on your own. I've already stuck my neck out far enough. Understood. Marcus offered his hand. I owe you. Yeah, you do. And Webb? Be careful. If Elizabeth Brennan died in a car accident that wasn't an accident, you're dealing with people who have reach and patience. They'll wait for the perfect moment, and then they'll disappear you both like you never existed. They left David's office with a duffel bag of equipment and a sense of dread that Marcus couldn't shake. It was still early, not quite 8 a.m., and the streets were starting to fill with morning commuters. We should wait until tonight, Marcus said. Fewer people around. Easier to spot surveillance. Natalie nodded. Where do we go until then? Marcus thought for a moment. I know a place. Actually safe this time. The hotel was in Midtown. Mid-range, the kind that catered to business travelers and tourists. Anonymous. Marcus paid cash for a room on the 4th floor, facing the interior courtyard rather than the street. The room was standard, 2 double beds, small bathroom, generic artwork on the walls. But it had working locks and no one knew they were there. Marcus set the duffel bag on the desk and checked the windows. Natalie sat on the edge of one bed, finally allowing herself to show how exhausted she was. You should sleep, Marcus said. We've got about 10 hours before we move. What about you? I'll keep watch. Marcus, you haven't slept either. I've gone longer on less sleep. Natalie stood and crossed to him. You're not in Afghanistan anymore. You don't have to do everything alone. Old habits. She reached up and touched his face. Her fingers found a cut on his cheekbone that he hadn't even noticed, probably from flying glass in Brooklyn. The touch was gentle, exploratory. You're bleeding, she said softly. It's nothing. Let me clean it. Marcus started to protest, but she was already moving to the bathroom. She came back with a damp washcloth and guided him to sit on the bed. Then she carefully cleaned the cut, her face close to his, concentrating. Marcus found himself studying her. The curve of her jaw, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way she bit her lower lip when she focused. In the harsh light of morning, after everything they'd been through, she was still the most beautiful thing he'd seen in years. There, Natalie said, pulling back slightly, but she didn't move away. Her hand was still on his face, thumb tracing along his cheekbone. Their eyes met. The air between them changed, became charged. All the adrenaline from the past 24 hours, all the fear and danger and forced intimacy. It crystallized into something else. Something that had been building since the moment Marcus had chosen to protect her instead of complete his contract. We shouldn't, Marcus said, his voice rough. Shouldn't what? This. Whatever this is. Why not? Because I'm the person who kidnapped you. Because we're running for our lives. Because... Natalie kissed him. It was tentative at first, questioning, giving him the chance to pull away. But Marcus didn't pull away. He'd spent 6 years refusing to feel anything, refusing to want anything, and in this moment all that discipline evaporated. He kissed her back. His hand came up to cup the back of her head, fingers threading through her dark hair. Her arms went around his neck. The kiss deepened, became urgent. 6 years of loneliness and isolation meeting 3 years of grief and all the fear of the last day burning away in the heat between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Natalie rested her forehead against his. That was, she started. A bad idea, Marcus finished. I was going to say inevitable. Marcus pulled back enough to look at her. Natalie, I don't do this. Relationships, connections. I've spent 6 years making sure I don't. I know. Her eyes searched his. But you're doing it anyway. With me. Whether you plan to or not. She was right. Somewhere between the safe house and the parking garage, between the diner and David's office, Marcus had started caring. Had started wanting her safe not just because it served his interests, but because the thought of her getting hurt made something in his chest constrict. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Neither do I. Natalie's hand was still on his face. But maybe we figure it out together. Marcus knew he should say no. Should put distance between them. Should remember that emotional attachments got people killed in his line of work. But he'd already crossed that line. The moment he'd chosen to save her in Brooklyn, he'd crossed it. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, we'll figure it out. He kissed her again, softer this time. But right now you need sleep. We both do. Natalie smiled against his lips. Will you stay? Just next to me? It was such a simple request. The kind of thing normal people did every day without thinking. For Marcus, it felt monumental. Yeah, he said. I'll stay. They lay down on one of the beds. Natalie curled against his side, her head on his chest. Marcus kept one arm around her, the other resting on his Glock on the nightstand. Old habits died hard. Marcus. Natalie's voice was drowsy. Thank you for choosing me. He tightened his arm around her. Thank you for making me remember why some things are worth choosing. Within minutes, her breathing had evened out into sleep. Marcus lay awake a while longer, staring at the ceiling, feeling the unfamiliar weight of another person against him. For the first time in 6 years, he wasn't alone. And it terrified him. But it also felt like coming home. Chapter 3. Marcus woke to Natalie's fingers tracing the scar on his shoulder. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. It was late afternoon. They'd slept for almost 8 hours. This one looks old, Natalie said quietly, apparently not realizing he was awake. Mosul, 2017. Sniper round, but it was poorly aimed. Went through without hitting anything vital. She startled slightly, then smiled. Sorry. Didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. Marcus caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. The gesture surprised them both. It was tender, intimate, the kind of thing he'd never done with anyone. How long have you been awake? An hour, maybe. I've been watching you sleep. That's creepy. That's romantic, Natalie corrected. She shifted to prop herself up on one elbow, looking down at him. You look different when you're not being hypervigilant. Younger. Less haunted. I am haunted. I know. Her fingers moved to trace the line of his jaw. But maybe you don't have to be. Not forever. Marcus caught her hand again, this time holding it against his chest. Natalie, after this is over, assuming we survive, I don't know what happens. I'm not a relationship person. I'm not even sure I'm a person anymore. Sometimes, I'm just scared, she finished. You're scared of caring about something and losing it again. I get it. I've been there. Your mother. My mother. My college roommate who died in a car accident. My high school boyfriend who overdosed. Natalie's voice was steady but sad. I know what it's like to lose people, but I also know that hiding from connection doesn't make the fear go away. It just makes you alone. Marcus pulled her down and kissed her. It was meant to be a way to avoid the conversation, but it turned into something else. Something slow and deep and full of things he didn't have words for. When they broke apart, Natalie was smiling. Was that your way of changing the subject? Did it work? Temporarily. She glanced at the clock. We have a few hours before we need to move. We should eat. Plan. Go over the approach for the storage facility. Or, Natalie said, her hand sliding down his chest. We could do this. Marcus caught her hand before it went any lower. Natalie, I'm not asking for forever, Marcus. I'm just asking for now. Her eyes were serious. We might die tonight. I'd rather not die wondering what this could have been. She had a point, and Marcus was tired of denying what he wanted. Tired of holding back. For 6 years, he'd been surviving. Maybe it was time to actually live, even if just for a few hours. Okay, he said. Okay. He rolled, reversing their positions so she was beneath him. Now. We can have now. Natalie's smile was radiant. That's all I'm asking for. What happened next was slow and careful and intense. Marcus had been with women over the years, transactional encounters, stress relief, physical needs met without emotional investment. This was different. This was Natalie looking at him like he mattered, touching him like he was precious, making him feel things he'd thought he'd permanently shut off. They made love with the afternoon light streaming through the curtains, taking their time, learning each other. Natalie's hands mapped the scars on his body, each one a story he'd never told anyone. Marcus discovered that she had a tattoo of a small bird on her left hip, that she made the softest sounds when he kissed her neck, that she was both vulnerable and strong in equal measures. Afterward, they lay tangled together, skin to skin, breathing synchronized. That was... Natalie started. Yeah, Marcus agreed. She laughed, the sound light and genuine. Very articulate, Captain Webb. Former captain. And I'm better with actions than words. I noticed. She traced patterns on his chest. Marcus, I need to tell you something. He tensed slightly. What? I'm falling for you. Maybe already have fallen. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But... Marcus kissed her to stop the words. When he pulled back, he said, I know. Me too. Really? Really? He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I didn't want to. Tried not to. But you're impossible not to fall for. Natalie's eyes were bright. Is that your way of saying you have feelings? That's my way of saying I'm in trouble. Because caring about you makes every decision harder. Every risk more dangerous. If something happens to you, then you'll do everything in your power to prevent it. Like you've been doing since Brooklyn. She kissed him softly. We're in this together now. Whatever happens. Marcus held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest. This was what he'd been avoiding for 6 years. This vulnerability, this connection, this terrible, wonderful feeling of having something to lose. But Natalie was right. They were in it together now. And maybe that made them stronger, not weaker. They ordered room service, Marcus's first meal that didn't come from a diner or a bodega in longer than he could remember. While they ate, they planned. The storage facility closes at 10, Marcus said, studying the building schematics David had sent. We go in at 11 when there's just security. Easier to avoid one person than a whole staff. What about cameras? David's bypass should handle those. We'll have a 90-second window to get inside. Then we're on our own. Natalie nodded, pushing food around her plate. Marcus, what if we find the files and my father is implicated? What if he knew about Nightfall and didn't stop it? Then we deal with that when we get there. But what would you do? If it was your decision? Marcus set down his fork. I'd release it anyway. Truth matters even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. That's what cost you your career. And it was still the right choice. He reached across the table and took her hand. Your mother left you those files because she trusted you to do the right thing. Whatever that turns out to be. Natalie squeezed his fingers. What if the right thing destroys my father? What if hiding it destroys everyone else he's supposed to protect? The people under illegal surveillance, the ones whose rights are being violated, the future victims if Nightfall keeps expanding. Marcus held her gaze. I know it's hard. I know you love him. But some things are bigger than family. I hate that you're right. I usually am. It's annoying. She smiled despite the heavy conversation. You're allowed to be wrong sometimes, you know? I'll keep that in mind. They finished eating in comfortable silence. Then Natalie stood and held out her hand. We have 2 more hours. Come here. Marcus followed her back to the bed. They made love again. Slower this time. Neither of them speaking but both of them understanding. This might be the last peaceful moment they had. The last time they could just be 2 people without the weight of conspiracies and danger crushing down on them. Marcus memorized everything. The way Natalie looked with her hair spread across the pillow, the soft sounds she made, the way her hands gripped his shoulders. If something went wrong tonight, if one of them didn't make it out, he wanted to remember this. Wanted to remember what it felt like to connect with someone completely. When they finally lay still, wrapped around each other, Natalie whispered against his neck, "Whatever happens tonight, this was real. What we have, it's real." "I know," Marcus said. "And that's what scares me most." They left the hotel at 10:45 p.m. Marcus had the duffel bag with David's equipment. Natalie wore dark clothes, her hair pulled back. They looked like any other couple out for a late-night walk. The storage facility was in Long Island City, tucked between warehouses and auto repair shops. Not the kind of place you went unless you had specific business. Marcus and Natalie approached on foot, leaving the stolen car service vehicle 3 blocks away. The facility was surrounded by chain-link fence, access controlled by a keypad entry system. Security cameras at the corners. Professional setup, but not impenetrable. "How do we get in?" Natalie asked. Marcus pulled a small device from the duffel. "David's bypass key. It'll loop the camera feed for 90 seconds while we enter. After that, we're on our own." He activated the device, and the camera's blinking lights steadied into continuous green. Marcus cut the lock with bolt cutters and they slipped through the gate. The storage unit was number 247, second floor of the main building. Climate-controlled units, the expensive kind. Marcus checked for alarms, found none, and picked the lock in under 30 seconds. Inside, the unit was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet, mostly empty except for a filing cabinet in the corner and a locked metal case on top of it. "That's it," Natalie breathed. The case had a biometric scanner instead of a traditional lock. Marcus set down the duffel and pulled out David's portable unit. "Put your hand here." Natalie pressed her palm against the scanner. There was a soft beep, a mechanical click, and the case opened. Inside were 3 hard drives, each labeled with alphanumeric codes Marcus didn't recognize, and a sealed envelope with Natalie's name handwritten on the front. Natalie's hands trembled as she picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was a letter, her mother's handwriting. She read it aloud, voice shaking. "Natalie, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I'm sorry. I never wanted to involve you, but I needed someone I could trust absolutely. The drives contain evidence of programs that should not exist. Nightfall is still operational, monitoring American citizens without warrants or oversight. The evidence shows involvement at the highest levels. Senate Intelligence Committee, NSA leadership, possibly higher. I couldn't go public while I was alive. They'd bury it and bury me. But if I'm gone, the information can't be suppressed the same way. You have to get this to someone who will publish it. Someone outside the system. I know this is unfair. I know you didn't ask for this. But you're the only person I trust to do the right thing, even when it's hard. I love you. I'm so proud of you. Be brave. Mom." Natalie's face was wet with tears. She clutched the letter, reading it again silently. Marcus picked up one of the drives. "Your mother was right. This is what they're trying to bury. If this gets published, it destroys careers, maybe brings down whole departments." Natalie wiped her eyes. "And my father, he's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. If he knew about Nightfall and didn't stop it, or if he's implicated in the oversight failure. We don't know that he is. We don't know that he isn't." She looked at Marcus. "What do we do?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed. Another text from the unlisted number. "We know about the storage unit. You have 30 minutes to deliver the asset and the drives. Come alone to the address below, or everyone you've ever cared about dies." An address followed. Warehouse District, South Brooklyn. Marcus showed Natalie the screen. "It's a trap," she said. "Of course it's a trap. So what do we do?" Marcus looked at the drives, then at Natalie, then at his phone. For 6 years, he'd operated on a simple principle. Survival first. Don't get attached. Don't take sides. Do the job or walk away, but never, ever make it personal. But this was already personal. had been since the moment he'd realized Natalie was telling the truth. Since he'd chosen to protect her instead of completing the contract. Since he'd started to remember what it felt like to believe in something other than his own survival. Since he'd fallen for her. "We go," he said. "Are you insane?" "Probably, but they're not going to stop. And if we run, they'll just keep hunting until they find us. Or they'll go after your father or David, or anyone else who might have helped us." Marcus put the drives in the duffel and zipped it closed. "The only way this ends is if we end it. By walking into a trap? By controlling the trap." He met her eyes. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Natalie looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "What's the plan?" Marcus checked his watch. 27 minutes. "The plan," he said, "is to give them exactly what they want. Right up until the moment we don't." They left the storage unit and headed for Brooklyn. In the car, Marcus outlined his idea. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but it was the only play that gave them even a chance. "You really think this will work?" Natalie asked. "I think it's better than doing nothing and hoping for the best." "That's not very reassuring." Marcus reached over and took her hand. "If this goes wrong, if I can't get us out, I need you to know something. Don't do the goodbye speech." "Natalie." "No." Her grip tightened. "We're both getting out of this. Both of us. I didn't just find you to lose you in some warehouse in Brooklyn." Marcus brought her hand to his lips. "Okay, we both get out. Promise." "I promise I'll do everything in my power to make that happen." It wasn't quite the promise she'd asked for, but it was the best he could give. Because in his line of work, promises about survival were often just pretty lies. But he meant every word about trying. The warehouse was exactly what Marcus expected. Isolated location, multiple exits, high ceiling for poor sightlines. The kind of place where bodies disappeared and nobody asked questions. He approached from the south, Natalie beside him, duffel bag over his shoulder. His Glock was in his waistband, extra magazine in his jacket pocket. Not enough firepower for a sustained fight, but enough to make a statement. The main door was open. They entered. Inside, the warehouse was mostly empty. Concrete floor, metal support columns, shadows in every corner. In the center of the space, illuminated by a single overhead light, stood the man from the coffee shop. The one who'd hired Marcus. He wasn't alone this time. 6 armed contractors surrounded him, weapons ready. "Mr. Webb," the man said, smiling. "And Miss Brennan. Right on time." Marcus and Natalie stopped 10 feet away. "You got your 30 minutes. Here's your asset." He gestured to Natalie. "And here's your drives." He held up the duffel. "I knew you were a professional." The man stepped forward. "May I?" "You may not." Marcus kept the bag. "First we talk. Who are you working for?" The man's smile didn't waver. "Does it matter?" "It does to me. Let's just say certain parties have a vested interest in making sure Senator Brennan's next committee hearing doesn't go well. The information on those drives would have been very helpful. But since his daughter is about to access and leak that same information in a fit of misguided activism before tragically taking her own life, the outcome is the same. "Except I'm not going to do that," Natalie said. "Oh, you will. We have experts who are very good at making people do things they don't want to do." The man's eyes flicked to Marcus. "As for you, Mr. Webb, I'm afraid you've become a loose end. Nothing personal. It never is." Marcus set the duffel down slowly. "But before we get to the loose end tying, I have a question. Did you really think I'd walk in here without insurance?" The man's smile faltered slightly. "What insurance?" "The kind where every major news outlet and investigative journalist in the country received an encrypted file about an hour ago. Time-locked, set to auto-decrypt in 90 minutes unless I enter a password to stop it. The file contains copies of everything on these drives, plus a detailed account of your operation, including your attempt to frame Miss Brennan." Marcus pulled out his phone. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let us walk out of here. And in exchange, I'll cancel the release." The man stared at him. Then he laughed. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You want to bet your entire operation on that assumption?" The silence stretched. Marcus could see the man calculating, weighing risks, trying to determine if Marcus was telling the truth. He wasn't. There was no encrypted file, no journalists. But the man didn't know that. And in tradecraft, perception was reality. "Kill them," the man said. The contractors raised their weapons. Marcus dove, pulling Natalie down and behind a support column as gunfire erupted. Bullets sparked off concrete. He returned fire, dropping one contractor with a shot to the chest, winging another. "Run!" he shouted to Natalie. "Back door now." She ran, and Marcus covered her, firing controlled bursts, keeping the contractors pinned. His magazine ran dry. He ejected it, slammed in the spare, kept moving. A bullet caught him in the shoulder. The same shoulder that had the old scar from Mosul. Pain exploded through his arm, but training took over. He kept moving, kept firing. Reached the back door where Natalie waited. They burst out into an alley. Marcus could hear boots pounding behind them. "Keep going." Blood was soaking through his jacket, but adrenaline dulled the pain. They ran toward the street, toward witnesses, toward any chance of survival. A car screeched around the corner. Marcus raised his weapon with his good arm. The passenger window rolled down. David Chin leaned out. "Get in." They threw themselves into the back seat. David floored it before the doors were even closed. "I thought you said you were out." Marcus gasped, pressing his hand against the wound. "I lied. I've been monitoring police scanners. Heard shots fired at this location." David took a hard turn. "You're bleeding. I've noticed." Natalie was already pulling off her jacket, pressing it against Marcus's shoulder. Her hands were steady despite everything. "Hospital." "No hospitals," Marcus said. "They'll be watching. You need medical attention." "I need not to be dead. Medical attention can wait." He looked at David. "Did you really send files to journalists?" "Of course not. But I did upload everything to a dead man's switch system. If I don't check in every 12 hours, it auto-releases to WikiLeaks, The Times, The Post, and about 50 other outlets." David grinned. "Learned that trick from your friend here. Always have insurance." Marcus actually laughed, which made his shoulder scream. "You're getting better at this. Had a good teacher." David glanced in the rearview mirror. "So what's the play? We've got evidence of illegal surveillance, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit political assassination. But going public means painting a target on all our backs." "We're already targets," Natalie said quietly. She was still pressing the jacket against Marcus's wound, her other hand resting on his chest. "But my father isn't. Not yet. If we release this without warning him, without giving him a chance to position himself." "He's on the Intelligence Committee," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "He might already know about Nightfall. Or he might not. Either way, he deserves the truth." Natalie looked at David. "Can you get us to DC? Are you serious?" "Very. If we're going to expose this, we do it right. We give my father the evidence. We let him decide how to handle it from inside the system. And if he's compromised," her voice hardened, "then we release everything and let the world sort it out." Marcus studied her through the haze of pain. "That's a hell of a risk. What if he's dirty? Then I'll know. And I'll do what my mother would have wanted." Natalie met his eyes. "But I have to give him the chance to be the man I believe he is." It was either incredibly brave or incredibly naive. Marcus wasn't sure which. But he was sure of one thing. Natalie Brennan was done running. And somehow, without him realizing it, so was he. "DC it is," he said. David nodded and changed lanes, heading for the highway. Marcus leaned his head back against the seat, feeling Natalie's hand in his, feeling the warmth of her body next to his despite the pain radiating from his shoulder. "Marcus," she said softly. "Yeah. Don't you dare die on me. Wasn't planning on it." "Good." She leaned in and kissed him gently, carefully. "Because we have things to figure out. You and me." And I'm not doing that alone. Marcus managed a smile. Bossy. You like it? Yeah, he admitted. I do. Behind them, Brooklyn disappeared into the distance, along with the life Marcus had built on the principle that nothing mattered except survival. Turned out some things mattered more, like the woman holding his hand, like the truth they were carrying, like the chance to be something other than a weapon for the first time in 6 years. Chapter 4. The drive to Washington took 4 hours. David had a contact in Baltimore who stitched Marcus's shoulder in a veterinary clinic after hours. No questions asked. The bullet had gone through clean, painful but manageable. Marcus swallowed antibiotics and painkillers and tried not to think about how many rules of operational security he was breaking. Natalie sat beside him in the back seat the whole time, her hand never leaving his. When the stitching was done and Marcus's arm was in a sling, she helped him back to the car. You scared me, she said quietly. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't do it again. Marcus kissed her temple. I'll try. They got back on the road. The painkillers were making Marcus drowsy, but he fought it. Couldn't afford to be unconscious right now. Too much at stake. Sleep, Natalie said, reading his mind. I'll wake you if anything happens. Can't. Marcus. If I sleep, I might not wake up in time. Might not be able to protect you. Natalie shifted in the seat, maneuvering so his head was resting against her shoulder. Then rest. I'll keep watch. We're a team. Remember? It went against every instinct Marcus had developed over 6 years. But he was exhausted, and the painkillers were insistent, and Natalie's presence was the safest thing he'd felt in longer than he could remember. Okay, he murmured, but wake me if. I will. I promise. Marcus let his eyes close. The last thing he felt was Natalie's fingers running gently through his hair, and the last thing he heard was her soft voice saying, I've got you. He woke 2 hours later as the car slowed. They were in D.C., approaching the city center. Dawn was just starting to break. Hey, Natalie said softly. Welcome back. Marcus straightened, wincing at the pull in his shoulder. Status. David's been monitoring traffic. No pursuit. We're clear, for now. David glanced back. The senator is at his office. Early morning meeting prep. I've been tracking his schedule. Does he know we're coming? Marcus asked. No. Couldn't risk communication. But Natalie's his daughter. She can get access. Marcus looked at Natalie. She was nervous. He could see it in the tension around her eyes, the way she was gripping her phone. You don't have to do this, he said. We can release everything without involving him. No. Natalie's voice was firm. He deserves to know. Deserves the chance to be part of stopping this. And if he's dirty, then I'll know. And I'll do what needs to be done. She met Marcus's eyes. My mother trusted me to be strong enough for this. I have to trust that she was right. Marcus took her hand. She was right. You're the strongest person I know. Natalie smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. You're biased. Extremely. Doesn't make it less true. David pulled up outside the Hart Senate office building. This is as close as I can get without triggering security protocols. You're on your own from here. Marcus and Natalie got out. David handed Marcus a phone. Encrypted. Call if you need extraction. I'll be monitoring. Thanks, David, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're both alive and this is over. David's expression softened. Be careful, Webb. Both of you. They watched him drive away, then turned toward the building. Ready? Marcus asked. No, Natalie said. But let's go anyway. Getting into the building was easier than Marcus expected. Natalie's ID as the senator's daughter got them through the first security checkpoint. The guards recognized her, waved them through with friendly greetings. Senator Brennan's office was on the 3rd floor. His chief of staff tried to intercept them, but Natalie brushed past with a firm, I need to see my father. Now. The senator was in his private office, reviewing documents. He looked up when they entered, and his face went through a rapid series of emotions. Surprise, relief, concern. Natalie. He stood quickly, coming around the desk. Where have you been? Your security team said you disappeared. There were reports. He stopped when he saw Marcus. Saw the sling, the bloodstains on Marcus's clothes despite his jacket covering most of it. The way Marcus was positioned between Natalie and the door. Who is this? The senator asked, his voice shifting to something harder. Someone who's been keeping me alive, Natalie said. She pulled the hard drives from her bag and set them on her father's desk. Dad, we need to talk. About Mom. About Nightfall. About everything. Senator Brennan's face went pale. He looked at the drives, then at Natalie, then at Marcus. Close the door, he said quietly. Marcus did, then took up position where he could see both the office door and the window. Old habits. Natalie told her father everything. The abduction, the attacks, the storage unit, the letter from her mother. Marcus filled in details about the contract, the conspiracy, the attempt to frame Natalie. When they finished, Senator Brennan sank into his chair. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I knew, he said finally, voice hollow. Not about the surveillance continuing. I believed the program had been shut down. But I knew Elizabeth was investigating something. She came to me 3 months before she died. Said she'd found irregularities in the budget oversight. I told her to be careful. I told her to work through official channels. His hands clenched. I should have told her to run. You didn't know, Natalie said. I should have known. I'm on the Intelligence Committee. It's my job to know. Senator Brennan looked up, and Marcus saw genuine anguish in his eyes. They killed her because of what she found. And now they're trying to use you to bury it. Not anymore, Marcus said. We have copies of everything. Dead man's switch. If anything happens to us, it all goes public. Who hired you? The senator asked. I don't know their names, but I know they have reach. Government contractors, probably former intelligence officers. They've been running a black bag operation to retrieve the evidence and eliminate witnesses. Senator Brennan stood slowly. Then we go public. Now, tonight. I'll call a press conference, release everything. No, Natalie said. Her father looked at her, surprised. If you release it that way, they'll discredit you, she continued. Say you're compromised, that you're working with foreign agents, that the evidence is fabricated. You'll be destroyed before the truth even matters. Then what do you suggest? We do it Mom's way. Strategic. Calculated. Natalie picked up one of the drives. You take this to the Inspector General. Official channels, proper procedures. Meanwhile, David, our technical expert, releases a version to trusted journalists with full documentation. Two-pronged approach. Too big to bury. Too legitimate to dismiss. Senator Brennan studied his daughter. When did you get so tactical? I've had a good teacher. She glanced at Marcus. The senator looked at Marcus too. Really looked at him for the first time. You're the one who took her. I am, Marcus said. And you're the one who kept her alive. Also me. Why? It was a fair question. Marcus considered his answer carefully. Because somewhere between taking the contract and completing it, I remembered what it felt like to be on the right side of a fight, he said. Your daughter reminded me that there are still things worth protecting. Even if the system is broken, the people inside it aren't all corrupt. Some of them are just trying to do the right thing in a world that punishes them for it. Senator Brennan held his gaze. Then he extended his hand. Thank you for protecting her. Marcus shook it. Thank you for being worth protecting. The senator turned to Natalie. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so. Natalie's voice wavered slightly. Dad, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. Anything. Did you know Nightfall was still running? Before Mom died. Did you have any indication? Senator Brennan looked at his daughter for a long moment. No. I voted to shut it down 3 years ago based on the Oversight Committee's recommendations. The intelligence agencies assured us it had been terminated. Either they lied, or there are elements operating completely outside official channels. But I swear to you, Natalie, I didn't know. Natalie searched his face. Then she nodded. I believe you. Thank you. The senator's voice was rough with emotion. He pulled his daughter into a hug. I'm sorry for not protecting your mother, for not seeing what was happening. Dad, stop. You couldn't have known. Natalie pulled back. But now you do. So what are we going to do about it? Senator Brennan's expression hardened. We're going to burn them down. All of them. Everyone involved in this program. Everyone who knew and stayed silent. Everyone who came after my family. He looked at Marcus. How long do we have before your dead man's switch activates? Marcus checked his phone. David has it set to 12-hour intervals. He checked in 3 hours ago. So we have 9 hours. Then we move fast. The senator picked up his phone. I'm calling the Inspector General. And Senator Whitmore, she chairs the Intelligence Committee. She's been pushing for surveillance reform for years. If anyone will help, it's her. 3 hours moved like a controlled explosion. Senator Brennan made calls. Careful, coded calls to people he trusted. The Inspector General. Senator Whitmore. 2 journalists with reputations for handling classified leaks responsibly. A federal judge who'd been pushing for surveillance reform. David coordinated the technical release, ensuring the encrypted files would decrypt simultaneously across multiple platforms. Maximum exposure, minimum lead time for suppression. Marcus stayed by the window watching the street. Natalie stayed close to him, occasionally touching his good arm, maintaining contact. You okay? She asked quietly while her father was on another call. Shoulder hurts. But I've had worse. That's not what I meant. Marcus looked at her. I know. This is almost over. One way or another. Yeah. And then what happens? With us? It was the question Marcus had been avoiding thinking about. Because thinking about a future meant hoping for one, and hope was dangerous. I don't know, he said honestly. I'm still wanted for kidnapping a senator's daughter. I'll tell them it was protective custody, which it was. I'm still a hired gun with a dishonorable discharge and a body count. You're a man who saved my life and helped expose a massive conspiracy. Natalie took his hand. You're also the man I love, so we figure it out. Together. Marcus felt something in his chest crack open. You love me? Yes. I thought that was obvious. I'm not good at obvious. Then let me be clear. I love you, Marcus Webb. All of you. The soldier, the operative, the man who's trying so hard to be better than he thinks he is. She squeezed his hand. What do you say to that? Marcus pulled her close with his good arm and kissed her. It was gentle despite everything. Tender despite the violence of the last few days. I say I love you too, he murmured against her lips. And I don't know how to do this, but I want to try. That's all I'm asking. They stood there, holding each other, until Senator Brennan cleared his throat. Sorry to interrupt, he said. But we have a problem. Marcus and Natalie turned. The people behind this just made contact. The senator continued, holding up his phone. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? Marcus asked. Our silence in exchange for calling off the pursuit. Senator Brennan's face was grim. They're threatening to detonate a bomb at the Mayflower Hotel fundraiser tonight. 200 people, including most of the Senate leadership. Marcus felt ice in his veins. They're bluffing. Maybe. But can we risk it? What did you tell them? That I needed an hour to consider. But we don't have an hour. The fundraiser starts in 40 minutes. Marcus's mind raced. Can we evacuate? Not without tipping them off. And if we're wrong about the bomb, we've shown our hand for nothing. If we're right about the bomb and we don't evacuate, 200 people die, Natalie said. Senator Brennan nodded. Which is why they chose this. Maximum leverage. Either we back down and they win, or we call their bluff and potentially cause a massacre. Marcus thought fast. There was a third option. Risky. Probably stupid. But it was there. Let me go, he said. Go where? The senator asked. To the hotel. Scout it. If there's a bomb, I'll find it and neutralize it. If there's not, we know they're bluffing and we proceed with the release. You're injured, Natalie protested. I can still move, still think, still do what needs to be done. Marcus, it's the only play that covers both scenarios. He looked at Senator Brennan. Call them back. Tell them you agree to meet at the hotel to discuss terms. That buys me time to search. If they're watching, they'll know you're there. Let them know. Let them think I'm there for the meeting. Meanwhile, I'm actually looking for their insurance policy. Senator Brennan considered. Then he nodded. Do it. But Webb, be careful. These people have already tried to kill you twice. Third time's the charm, Marcus said grimly. Natalie grabbed his arm. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You can't search the whole hotel alone with one arm. I'll manage. Marcus. No. He turned to face her fully. You stay here. With your father. Where it's safe. That's non-negotiable. Natalie's jaw set. You don't get to make that call. Yes, I do. Because if something happens to you, everything we've done means nothing. Your father needs you. The truth needs you. He touched her face gently. I need you. Which means you stay here. Tears welled in her eyes. You'd better come back. I will. Promise me. Marcus kissed her, putting everything he felt into it. When he pulled back, he said, I promise I'll do everything in my power to come back to you. It wasn't quite what she'd asked for, but it was all he could give. The Mayflower Hotel was exactly as Marcus remembered. Elegant, expensive, the kind of place where power brokers made deals. The fundraiser was in the main ballroom, already filling with guests. Marcus entered through the service entrance, moving like he belonged. The sling helped, made him look like staff who'd been injured on the job, not a threat. He had 30 minutes to search before the meeting with the conspirators. 30 minutes to find a bomb that might not even exist. He started in the ballroom, scanning for anything out of place. Moved to the kitchen, the loading docks, the mechanical rooms. Nothing. 15 minutes left. Marcus checked his phone. A text from Natalie. Please be careful. I love you. He typed back. Love you too. Stay safe. Then he kept searching. 10 minutes. He was in the basement checking the HVAC system when he found it. A car. Black sedan, parked in the underground lot. Same model as the one from DC engine running. Windows tinted. Marcus approached carefully, peered inside. The back seat was packed with C4. Enough to bring down the building. Detonator visible on the dashboard. Remote trigger. They weren't bluffing. Marcus pulled out his phone to call Senator Brennan. A gun pressed against the back of his head. Don't move, a familiar voice said. Marcus went still. Didn't expect you to do your own wet work. Special circumstances. The man from the coffee shop, the one who'd hired Marcus, stepped around to face him, gun trained. You've been surprisingly persistent, Mr. Webb. I almost admire it. Almost. Well, it's also quite inconvenient. The man gestured to the car. I assume you found our insurance policy. Hard to miss. Indeed. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Senator Brennan and tell him the threat was real. That unless he destroys the evidence and ends this investigation, I'm going to detonate. He has 5 minutes to comply. And if I don't call, then I detonate anyway, and you die along with everyone upstairs. The man smiled. But I suspect you've developed a fondness for the senator's daughter. You'll make the call to save her, if not yourself. He was right, and he knew it. Marcus's mind raced through options. He could try to disarm the man. But with one arm in a sling and a gun already aimed at his head, the odds weren't good. He could refuse, but then the man would just make the call himself or detonate immediately. Or he could make the call and hope that Senator Brennan had a play Marcus couldn't see. 5 minutes, the man repeated. Marcus pulled out his phone. And then he saw it. The detonator on the dashboard. Remote trigger, but it needed to be armed first. Physical switch. The man couldn't detonate remotely until he armed it. Which meant he was bluffing. Again. Marcus smiled. You don't have a trigger. This whole thing is theater. The man's expression flickered. I assure you, if you could detonate remotely, you'd have done it already. But you can't. You need to physically arm the device first. Marcus took a step forward. Which means you were hoping I'd call the senator, he'd capitulate, and you'd disarm the bomb and disappear. Clean ending. I'll shoot you. Maybe. But the sound will bring security running. And then they'll find your bomb, and your whole operation collapses anyway. Another step. So here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to put down the gun. I'm going to disarm that bomb. And then we're going to have a conversation about who you're really working for. The man's hand tightened on the gun. Marcus could see him calculating. Then he fired. The shot went wide. Intentionally or not, Marcus couldn't tell. But it gave Marcus the opening he needed. He lunged forward with his good arm, knocking the gun aside, driving his shoulder into the man's chest. They went down hard. The gun skittered across the concrete. Marcus landed on his injured shoulder and the pain was blinding. But he didn't let go. Couldn't let go. The man was strong, well-trained. They grappled, rolled, traded blows. Marcus's injured arm was useless, limiting his options. But he'd been fighting with disadvantages for 6 years. He knew how to adapt. He got his good arm around the man's throat, applied pressure, held on while the man struggled, thrashed, finally went limp. Marcus held the choke for 3 more seconds to be sure, then released, checked for a pulse. Still alive. Good. He retrieved the gun and zip-tied the man with restraints from his pocket. Then he approached the car. The bomb was real. But Marcus had trained with explosives in the army. He knew what he was looking at. Carefully, methodically, ignoring the pain in his shoulder, he disarmed it. Cut the right wires. Removed the detonator. Made the C4 inert. When he was done, he sat back against the car and let himself breathe. His phone rang. Natalie. Marcus? Are you okay? We heard a gunshot. I'm fine. Bombs disarmed. Bad guys neutralized. You can evacuate now or leave everyone in place, your call. Oh, thank God. Her voice was shaking. Are you sure you're okay? My shoulder's screaming and I probably need more stitches. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm coming down there. Natalie. Don't argue. I'll see you in 2 minutes. She hung up. Marcus smiled despite the pain. Bossy. He loved that about her. Security arrived first, alerted by the gunshot. Marcus showed them the bomb, the unconscious contractor, explained enough to get them calling federal backup. Then Natalie burst through the door. She ran to him, threw her arms around him, kissed him hard enough to make his shoulder protest. He didn't care. He kissed her back, holding her with his good arm, feeling the fear and relief pouring off both of them. You scared me, she said against his lips. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't do it again. Can't promise that. She pulled back to look at him. Then I'm staying close, so I can keep you from doing stupid heroic things. That works for me. Senator Brennan arrived with federal agents. They took the contractor into custody, secured the bomb, began processing the scene. The senator pulled Marcus aside. The inspector general has agreed to fast-track the investigation. The journalists are ready to publish. We're going forward with the release. Good. And I've spoken with the Attorney General about your situation. Senator Brennan met Marcus's eyes. Given your role in exposing this conspiracy and protecting my daughter, he's willing to overlook the abduction charges. Call it protective custody, like Natalie said. Marcus felt something a knot in his chest. Thank you. Don't thank me. You earned it. The senator paused. I've also been making some calls about your discharge. There are people who remember what really happened in Afghanistan, who are willing to testify if we push for a review. Why would you do that? Because you saved my daughter's life. Because you helped expose a massive conspiracy. And because the Army made a mistake 6 years ago, and it's time to fix it. Senator Brennan offered his hand. Welcome back to the right side, Captain Webb. Marcus shook his hand, too overwhelmed to speak. Natalie appeared at his side, taking his good hand. Come on. Let's get you to an actual hospital this time. I don't need. Marcus. A hospital. Fine. I need a hospital. She smiled. There. Was that so hard? Extremely. They left the hotel together, Natalie supporting Marcus as they walked. Behind them, federal agents swarmed the scene. The conspiracy was unraveling. The truth was coming out. And for the first time in 6 years, Marcus felt like he could breathe. 3 days later, the news broke everywhere simultaneously. Senator Brennan released a statement to the Inspector General, documenting Nightfall and providing evidence of its continued operation. The same evidence appeared on WikiLeaks, in the Washington Post, in the New York Times. Journalists who'd spent years investigating surveillance overreach finally had proof they could publish. The story dominated every channel. Senate hearings were scheduled. Resignations were demanded. The director of the NSA held a press conference denying everything, but the evidence was too comprehensive, too thoroughly documented to dismiss. Marcus watched it from a private room at George Washington University Hospital. His shoulder was properly repaired now, the infection treated, the stitches done by actual surgeons instead of veterinarians. Natalie sat beside him on the bed, her head resting against his good shoulder. "They're going to investigate my father," she said quietly. "Assume he knew. Assume he was complicit. He'll prove otherwise. The evidence clears him. Your mother was the one who found it, not him. He's the one who brought it to light. I hope you're right. I usually am." Marcus glanced at her. "What will you do now?" "Testify, probably. Help with the investigation. Make sure my mother's work actually changes something." She looked up at him. "What about you?" Marcus didn't have an answer. For 6 years, he'd known exactly what he was doing. Surviving, moving, staying ahead of the past. But now the past felt different. The future felt different. "I don't know," he admitted. "You could stay," Natalie said. "Help me navigate this. The hearings, the investigations. I could use someone who understands how these people operate." "I'm wanted for..." Marcus paused. "Actually, I'm not wanted anymore." The senator cleared that up. "Exactly. So you could stay." Marcus looked at her. "And do what?" "I'm not exactly qualified for normal employment. You're qualified for security consulting, intelligence analysis, congressional testimony about how black ops actually work." Natalie shifted to face him. "Or you could just be with me while I figure out what comes next. No job required. Just be here." "That sounds suspiciously like a relationship." "It is a relationship. We've been in one for days now. This is just the part where we admit it's not temporary." Marcus felt that familiar fear, the one that said caring about someone meant losing them eventually. But he also felt something else. Hope. The dangerous, wonderful possibility that maybe this time, it wouldn't end in loss. "Okay," he said. Okay, I'll stay. We'll figure it out together." He kissed her softly. "Fair warning. I'm still not good at this. The normal life thing. The not keeping secrets thing." "Neither am I," Natalie admitted. "But we can learn." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the news coverage. Outside, the sun was setting over D.C., painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Marcus's phone buzzed. A notification from the Department of Defense. His heart rate picked up as he opened it. It was from the Army Review Board. "What is it?" Natalie asked. Marcus read the message twice, unable to quite believe it. After review of previously classified evidence, this board finds that Captain Marcus Webb's refusal to follow orders on the date in question was justified by circumstances not available to the original court-martial. His actions prevented civilian casualties and demonstrated exceptional moral courage under extreme circumstances. The dishonorable discharge is hereby rescinded and changed to honorable. Full reinstatement of benefits and reputation recommended. He showed Natalie the screen. Her eyes went wide. "Marcus, that's incredible." She threw her arms around him. "Your name, your record. They cleared you. The senator must have pushed it through fast. He told me he would. I just didn't think it would happen this quick." Natalie pulled back to look at him. How do you feel? Marcus considered. For 6 years, he'd carried the weight of that dishonorable discharge like a stone around his neck. The symbol of everything he'd lost, everything the system had taken from him. Now it was gone. Officially, publicly gone. I feel. He paused, searching for the right word. Free. For the first time since Afghanistan, I feel free. Natalie's eyes were bright with tears. You deserve this. You deserved it 6 years ago, but you especially deserve it now. I don't know about that. I do. She kissed him. You're a good man, Marcus Webb. You always were. Now the world knows it too. They held each other as the sun finished setting, as the news continued its coverage, as the world outside kept turning. A nurse came in to check Marcus's vitals. She smiled at them. Visiting hours end in 30 minutes. Can she stay? Marcus asked. Please. The nurse looked at Natalie, then at Marcus, then at the way they were holding each other. I didn't see anything, she said with a wink, and left. Natalie laughed. You're corrupting hospital staff now. It's a gift. They lay down together on the narrow hospital bed. Natalie curled against Marcus's good side, being careful of his shoulder. It was awkward and uncomfortable and perfect. Marcus, Natalie said softly. Yeah, I'm glad you kidnapped me. Marcus actually laughed. That's the strangest thing anyone's ever said to me. I mean it. If you hadn't, we'd never have met. I'd never have known about my mother's files. Nightfall would still be running. And I wouldn't have found you. Found me? The man you were trying so hard to bury. The one who believes in something more than just survival. She traced patterns on his chest. I'm glad I found him. Marcus tightened his arm around her. I'm glad you found him too. I'd forgotten he existed. They lay in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, I love you, you know. I know. You've told me. No, I mean, he struggled to find the words. I love you in a way that terrifies me, because I've spent 6 years making sure I didn't care about anything. And now I care about you more than I care about my own safety, more than I care about most things. Natalie propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. It's new, but it also feels right. Marcus met her eyes. You make me want to be better, to try harder, to believe that maybe the world isn't as broken as I thought it was. The world is exactly as broken as you thought, Natalie said. But there are good people in it trying to fix it. Like you, like my mother, like my father. She kissed him gently. We can't fix everything, but we can fix some things. And that matters. When did you get so wise? I learned from watching you make impossible choices and somehow coming out the other side still believing in the right thing. Marcus pulled her down for a deeper kiss. When they broke apart, he said, Stay with me. Tonight. Tomorrow. As long as you'll have me. Is that your way of asking me to move in? I don't have anywhere to live. All my safe houses are compromised. Then move in with me. My apartment in the brownstone. The security is being upgraded anyway. Marcus considered. Permanent address. A shared living space. All the things that screamed commitment and vulnerability and risk. Okay, he said. Really? Really? Let's do the terrifying relationship thing. Together. Natalie's smile was radiant. She kissed him again, and kept kissing him until the nurse came back and firmly but kindly told her it was really time to leave. I'll be back first thing in the morning, Natalie promised as she gathered her things. I'll be here. You'd better be. We have a life to plan. No pressure. She laughed and left, blowing him a kiss from the door. Marcus lay back in the hospital bed, alone but not lonely, thinking about the future for the first time in 6 years. He'd been hired to destroy Natalie Brennan. Instead, she'd saved him. Saved him from the emptiness he'd been living in. Saved him from the belief that nothing mattered. Saved him from himself. And maybe, just maybe, together they'd save each other from ever being that alone again. 6 months later. The Senate hearing room was packed. Press, public observers, members of Congress. Everyone wanted to witness the final testimony in the Nightfall investigation. Marcus sat in the gallery watching Natalie at the witness table. She'd been testifying for 3 days now, methodical and precise, walking the committee through every piece of evidence her mother had left behind. Senator Brennan sat in the front row, cleared of all suspicion after a thorough investigation proved he'd had no knowledge of the program's continuation. He'd become the face of surveillance reform, introducing legislation that would fundamentally change how intelligence agencies operated. The director of the NSA had resigned. 4 senior officials faced criminal charges. The program itself had been officially terminated, its systems dismantled under congressional oversight. It wasn't perfect. Marcus knew better than to think one investigation would fix everything. But it was something. A crack in the armor. Proof that sometimes the truth actually won. His phone buzzed. A text from David. Your discharge review board ruling made the front page of the Times. You're famous. Marcus smiled and typed back. Famous is overrated. I prefer functional. David. How's the shoulder? Marcus. Almost back to full range of motion. Should be cleared for physical activity next week. David. Good. I have a consulting job if you're interested. Legitimate this time. Corporate security audit. Marcus. Send details. I'll look at it. It was strange having legitimate job offers. Having his name cleared. Having a future that didn't involve constantly looking over his shoulder. He'd started teaching part-time at a private security training facility. Techniques, tactics, ethical decision-making in high-pressure situations. Turns out he was good at it. Turns out all those years of operational experience translated well to education. Natalie had been hired by a civil liberties organization to consult on surveillance oversight. She was writing the book about her mother's investigation. They were talking about documentary deals, speaking engagements, the whole circuit. But mostly they were just living together, learning each other's routines. Marcus's need for order meeting Natalie's comfortable chaos. Morning runs. Dinner together. Falling asleep wrapped around each other. It was normal. Domestic. Everything Marcus had thought he didn't want. Turned out he wanted it desperately. The hearing concluded for the day. Natalie made her way through the crowd and found Marcus in the hallway. Hey, she said, kissing him. How'd I do? You destroyed them with facts and logic. It was beautiful. Learned from the best. She took his hand. Ready to go home? Home. Not a safe house. Not a temporary location. Home. Yeah, Marcus said. Let's go home. They walked out of the Capitol building into late autumn sunshine. 6 months ago, Marcus had been a contract killer with nothing to lose. Now he had everything to lose, and that made him fight harder to protect it. I got a call today, Natalie said as they walked. A publisher wants to do a joint book. Your story and mine. How we exposed Nightfall together. I'm not much of a writer. You don't have to write. Just talk. Tell your story. The discharge, the operations, how you ended up working for criminals. Then how you chose differently. Marcus thought about it. His story wasn't pretty. But maybe that was the point. Maybe someone else needed to hear that you could come back from darkness. That one choice could change everything. Okay, he said. But I want final approval on everything. No dramatization. No making me look like a hero. You are a hero. I'm a man who made one good choice after years of bad ones. That's not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Natalie squeezed his hand. That's what heroes are, Marcus. People who choose to do the right thing even when it's hard. They reached their car. An actual owned vehicle registered in both their names. Another sign of permanence that still felt surreal. As Marcus drove through DC traffic toward their shared apartment, Natalie's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her expression changed. We'll be right there, she said and hung up. What's wrong? That was my father. Someone leaked classified information about the Nightfall successor program. A whistleblower inside NSA. They're scared and they don't know who to trust. Marcus felt the familiar pull, the operational instinct, the need to help, the draw of something bigger than himself. "What did you tell him?" he asked. "That we'd help. If they need protection, if they need guidance, we know how to do this." Natalie looked at him. "Is that okay? I know we were trying to have a normal life." Marcus thought about it. Normal was overrated anyway. What they had was better. A partnership built on trust and shared purpose. They'd exposed one conspiracy. Maybe they could help expose another. "It's okay," he said. "Let's help." Natalie smiled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. We're a team. We do this together." "Together," Natalie agreed. Marcus reached over and took her hand, keeping his eyes on the road. 6 months ago, he'd been hired to destroy the woman beside him. Instead, she'd given him back his life, his purpose, his belief that the world could be better. They'd faced down killers and conspiracies. They'd survived against impossible odds. They'd chosen each other when it would have been easier to walk away. Whatever came next, they'd face it the same way, together, and that made all the difference. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay loved up.